Very warm greetings and welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. I want to thank everybody for staying in tune and for your keeping up with us over this last few years. I must say that the last few weeks in Nigeria have been extremely interesting, I dare say exciting, and we look like we're a country going through some kind of process and some kind of transition. And that's why we've titled today's edition, A Nation or a Country in Transition. And we have to discuss with us Ambassador Dr. Charles O. Tudor. Ambassador Dr. Charles O. Tudor, who is Africa's premier brand strategist and engagement consultant. Over the years, he has enriched the branding landscape with his innovative approach to brand building across all sectors of the economy. He's an alumnus of the Wits Business School, South Africa, the University of Jos, Nigeria, and the School of Policy and Politics and Governance, SPPG. Ambassador Dr. Charles O. Tudor got his honorary doctorate degree from the Prowess University, United States of Nigeria. He is the group principal consultant of Adstrat Brand Management Consultants, a firm renowned for its out-of-the-box approach to brand strategy and engagement. He's an accomplished author, public speaker, and thought leader. He's not yet on the platform at this point in time, and therefore I'm going to open up the platform for discussion, because we do have in here quite a lot of our friends and people who have been part of this conversation over the last few years. And I'm going to be calling on one or two other young people to join us in the conversation. I see my friend is here, Mr. Boniface Chizia. Mr. Boniface Chizia and I used to be in the trenches many, many years ago, looking at this experience. So, it is good to see you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. But I'm glad to be able to join. There's not impossible. Well, I followed the trend. There's not even for me to join. So today it's possible I shall join, and no special interest, but at this marketplace of ideas. So you go out there to see what to learn. So the world is a school. So we keep on learning. We never stop learning until we die. So that's my attitude. So nice to see you are keeping up. You're holding up the fort. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to be tapping on you very soon. So
yes.
Your idea and your thoughts and your concepts of in transition. I also have on the platform my friend and my brother from another mother, Francis Odubek. We actually grew up together in Ibadan. And he's been out of the country for many years doing all sorts of UN work and things like that. And I'm sure if Francis is not too shy, he's back now in retirement. He may have one or two comments. I'm also going to be calling on some young people. I see Kim Thomas Allison, my friend. I see Chioma Obiokolo. Also, they may have told them that the future belongs to them and they must be ready to take hold of the future and see what to do about the future. Of course, my auntie is here, Professor Nike Grange. She would have a comment or two. And my Egbon Fumi Ajayi Tomori, we were also in the trenches many, many years ago, trying to see how to deal with issue of Nigeria. Of course, Sister Yemisi Ransom Kuti is here, and we'll be tapping on her at some stage to see what she is thinking about our great country, Nigeria. Pastor Sonny, I'm sure, will be joining us very soon, or he's already here. I think I see him. And of course, Jumoke Akin Taylor will also be making her contributions. I have Blessing Manuel Small Voice. We have a very wonderful history, Blessing and myself. And maybe one day she'll come and tell her story. And then my Oga at the top, Professor Francis Drosimieti, both my Oga at the top and my landlord, You know, I live on Abayomi at the street, so he owns the street, and if he decides that we can't pass, the Kojanon here, we can't pass. But he's been very kind to allow us access through the street. My niece, Anu Faole, all the way from Canada. Prof,
That's all, Pastor Chua. God bless you. Oh, God, that's good, John. It's nice to see you again. I only see you on television. I know you are my next door neighbor here. But God is going to strengthen you and bless you. You know, I just told some people a few minutes ago about Pastor Ichua. I said, if you know Pastor Ichua, he can multitask. It's talk with him now. The next minute is in England or is in there or is in Accra or whatever. But God is going to strengthen you. So I admire you so much. And good afternoon, everyone, too. All right. Thank you. God bless you.
Bye. My landlord.
It's my pleasure. God bless you. Bye.
Of course, Funkalo Awolowo, my bro, is here of the Awolowo dynasty. She'll have some Awolowo comments to make.
Good afternoon.
So, Funke, good to see you. God bless you.
Same, Pastor. Amen. And you too.
Okay. So let's start with you, my brother Boniface. Nigeria in transition. You have seen what's been going on in Nigeria over the last few weeks. Maybe I want to hear from you what your comments are as to where we really think we are, and what we as a people, what should our response be?
Well, I think that we're in a state of state capture, and so we don't have democracy. When I say state capture, some people are taking off the state as it is, structures, practices, and so on and so forth. They privatized it for their own purposes. That's essentially what it is. You see what's happening at Rivers State. That's a classic case of state capture. A gentleman was there. He was the head of the place. He was the governor for 8 years. He left. He put somebody in place and wants that person to be a stooge. And the gentleman, of course, made himself available. I think it wasn't, never thought he was going to get what he got. So he thought the best thing that would happen to him. And then he was there. And then suddenly it's discovered that it wasn't a sweet apple to swallow. And it was circumscribed. And he didn't have any independence, so to say. And at the end of the day, we now have a situation where an elected governor, elected house, is being sacked by the president, and the president has now appointed an administrator. Now, I've not followed the trend. I don't know what has happened at the National Assembly. We understand that within 48 hours, the National Assembly should ratify. Of course, again, because the National Assembly is also been captured as it were. So what will happen? Well, if you ask me, there'll be no prizes for saying guessing what will happen. So we don't know what's going to happen. But for me, really, that's not democracy. Now you take the judgment from the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, really, and we had 27 legislators. They resigned publicly and left a party that, as far as we are concerned, that party was not in crisis. So they resigned publicly and they swore to an affidavit. But now we go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court that tells us that the resignation is null and void. And so it's a terrible situation to be in. And now you now have crisis in the place. Livelihood is being destroyed before our very eyes. Pipelines are being blown up and so on. So sometimes you get news on social media. You don't know which one is correct and which one isn't. We've been told that our family was touched, but now we're being told it wasn't. And so it's a supreme crisis. For me, that's not a democracy. So I said to people that unless and until the votes of the people count, then we are not going to have accountability in Nigeria. We're not going to have what it takes to have a democracy. And until we wrestle corruption to the ground in Nigeria, we don't have a chance of making much progress. Because everything in Nigeria is privatized. So even the money, you have a budget, you spend money, how effective is that expenditure? So you ask yourself. And so we're in crisis. And so what is the way forward? I think that the way forward is not a revolution, but I don't know how we're going to do it. I think there's some docility. But I see that people are talking. So people are talking, they are fearless. I think the case of the NYC lady, they have spoken up and said this is a terrible president. And we think the situation is bad as it is. I reacted in social media. I think that what is on hand today, we've never seen it like that for a long time. And what is the cause of the crisis? Very simple thing. You remove subsidy, and then you float the naira. There are no go areas. I mean, it's a problem. We have issues there, but you don't lose subsidy. So what's the cause of the subsidy? The cause of the subsidy is because we are importing. We have a terrible situation where probably the 6th oil-producing country in the world has to import the product it consumes. It's a terrible situation. So you're importing it, and then you have the nasty subsidy and so on. And then you want to correct subsidy. And you have a refinery that's coming, that's going to produce 250 barrels a day. And you're not concentrating effort on this refinery to get the refinery to work and begin to produce. Refinery is coming up, they're putting us some problems on the way. So, okay, don't lose subsidy. What you do is you stop importation. We don't have productivity. And we have a low-hanging fruit. So we get Dangote refinery. If one competition gets look at our indigenous refineries, those in Port Harcourt, the one in Warri, I don't know about the one in Kaduna, get them to work, let them produce. But if you remove the subsidy the way you did, and fuel price went up the way it did, the crisis is foretold. You don't float the naira, my brother. We and I, we've been around this thing for a long time. When you float it, it has obvious consequences. Because you don't float for, there's no market for dollar in the country. And by the time you float, like they did, then what was happening, the crisis foretold. And if they did not stop, they've come back to manage float. If they did not stop, the crisis in the land today would have been much worse. In fact, I think that would have been a revolution. We're getting to a stage where people are beginning to commit, families were putting salt and hot water, drinking it, and dying because they could not find food to eat. So it's not even so bad. It's a terrible situation. And so that's the crisis we have on hand. And everybody is concentrated. We have concentration on 2027. So for them, that's of course the attitude of the politicians. So 27 is important, but we don't have today, and we're worried about tomorrow. So I think that we have a crisis. I don't know how we're going to do it. And I tell you, 27, as the elections is predictable. Less until something happens. If INEC demand there is still there, then what will happen is again, it's anybody's guess. We know what's going to happen. So I think we have a crisis, and how do we solve it? I don't know. Yeah, I think that we have to return independence to INEC. It's very important. The INEC chairman should be somebody that should be appointed. I think that we should put a body, maybe of former presidents, of former chief justices, and so on and so forth, and they should be interviewed and shortlisted. And then the president should approve. So somebody has independence, and they begin to have election. And we say, okay, we're going to automate the thing. And the automated process is being sabotaged. It's not allowed to follow through. So so also have crisis in the land. So first of all, we talk of restructuring. I think that's another step. But we need to make sure that we have elections. And when people vote, that the vote does not count. And unless and until we did that, we don't have accountability. So those, I don't want to go to Natasha's case. If you allow me, I can go. So maybe it's why you've had my voice.
You can talk briefly on Natasha's case. By the way, I'm told that the Senate has approved the state of emergency. Somebody just sent me a text or something to that extent. So I think that answers your question.
So
can touch on Natasha briefly, but what
Okay.
you've made some
Yes,
very
okay.
points in that INEC should return to independence. Maybe you should have a former president or former justice.
To do selection, to interview and select.
To interview and select.
Yes, and so we should.
Why don't they themselves? Why don't they appoint one of themselves, or why don't they have make themselves or have them as some kind of board of directors or board of trustees who now take charge and control of INEC? Do you think they'll be bold enough to resist any sitting president? Because even the one that we're looking at now, some of our former presidents don't have the courage to speak up.
Well, I think OBJ is speaking up. You know, as I is speaking up, I just can give that to him. I think Babangida also, I'm sure, has a chance would also speak up. Some people, you know, you can't. A leopard cannot change his spot. So if there's not somebody who has attitude, well, I think Jonathan is also trying. I mean, to some extent, he wasn't as loud. He wasn't as forthcoming when he was in governance. So I think that over the years, again, he's not beginning to talk. But whatever we do, what we have today is not acceptable. You know, so you find that even the electoral INEC commissioners, you know, already that they're being programmed. You know, so they appoint somebody. Look at what has happened in Rivers. The person that's not been appointed as an administrator, it's obvious that the person that's appointed is Muike. And so you had crisis. I didn't even talk about Muike. You have the crisis. You have somebody who has, like I said, left governance, and then the man is still calling the shots and then going on television and saying this guy is going to be impeached, and if he is impeached, the heavens will not fall. And then nobody says anything, you know, and then the president makes a speech. And then they're in an emergency situation, and the guy that is a key player, known to everybody, there's no mention of him. You know, so I think so that the crisis. And all this is because the president knows what role he will play on 2027. So I say that, you know, so we're concerned about 2027. So we don't have today. We're concerned, but that's the politician for you. So that's why I said by saying state capture is right. I don't know what we are going to do about it. For me, I should talk about Natasha. Natasha, I think that sexual harassment and so on and so forth. I think that I saw her first year video, and the thing she accomplished within the first year was astonishing. I saw the video, and I said, well, I made a comment. I said, well, she was given a bait, and she did not swallow that bait. No, she gave a bait. She gave a bait to a fish, and the fish swallows the bait. She didn't swallow it, so maybe she was being encouraged, and then she didn't play ball, and then so the opportunities were being withdrawn. So part of it, she was removed from local content committee, which I understand is a creative committee. And then she was being reallocated in the Senate and taken to this where she was just be simple and so on and so forth. So I think that he did not know all that. There might be a case of sexual harassment. So I don't know. I don't know how these things work. But I think that the courts should again come in and have a say. But even the court, to what extent are the courts Nigeria independent? Now you see what is happening. Look at the judgments that are coming from the courts, and so I think it's worrisome. It's a worrisome development, and I don't know how, you know, what is going to happen. But then we have people around who we know if they get to saddle, because you must have somebody who has good values. It's very important, you know. So when you have good values, then you prioritize the interests of the nation. I'm not even able to do that. So you go there. It's all about you. So you make appointments. And then you appoint somebody came out and said, even the appointments were being bought. So you pay money, you become a minister. And then I said to myself, then in that case, the president must be in the picture, must be in the game. Because nobody. So, but this one is, what are you doing with it? You know, I think it's a terrible situation. It's a terrible situation. I think that's something that you and I, you know, we should worry us. Because we're getting old, we're moving on, been around for quite some time. And I think that is something that should worry on us, because I don't know the way out. You know, we don't have the politicians, and they're not playing politics well. They don't have people with the right values, you know, so they're not prioritizing Nigeria. You know, so everything is about me, myself, and I. And it's a terrible situation. So I don't know what's going to happen. And we have crisis everywhere. So you don't have power supply, you don't have water, you have security. The bandits are taking all over the place in Nigeria, in some places. And the indigenous are being displaced and put in people's camp. And then non-indigenous are taking over their land and staying there, all boldness. So I told my brother, I don't know. So it's a terrible situation, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll come back to you later. I know that you really are passionate about Nigeria, and we'll see if you have questions. I don't know if my sister, Miss Fumi Ajayi Tomori, would like to make one or two comments and weigh in a little bit. First of all, deep condolences on our mutual loss this last week or two. May the Lord strengthen all of us in Jesus' name. So, Auntie Fumi, you want to make a comment or the other? You can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Pastor. What is there to say about Nigeria? But one thing I am considering thoughtfully these days is that we citizens have more role to play. Because unless and until more and more in numbers, if just 1 million people are outspoken, we can overwhelm and overpower these looting politicians. Situation is extremely bad, and we must act. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very succinct. I think my Aburo Kim Thomas Allison is raising up his hands. He has a comment or the other, but our speaker is on now. So I'm just going to take Kim very quickly and Dr. Fakunda, and then we go into our speaker, Professor Charles Otudo, who is going to be speaking to us on a country in transition. So Kim, very quickly, let's have your comment.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. God bless you, and God bless the African Leadership Forum. First and foremost, the NYC, I will start with the NYC lady, because she's a young person like me. She didn't say anything lie, in my opinion. The government must listen to the youth. Price of things are going high. I have a young family. I know what it takes to pay my children's school fees. I know what it takes to feed my family. The girl did not say anything lie. I don't know why they're trying to silence her. They must listen. And secondly, I don't know if I should hate former President Jonathan or to love him. He was a Democrat to a fault, in my opinion. During his time, there was a lot of happenings in Borno, other states. He didn't declare state of emergency. So I don't know, even in Lagos. So maybe he should have applied this method. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten here. But God will help us. My other point is, why didn't the current president declare state of emergency in Zamfara and Katsina with all the kidnapping and the unaliving of people in those states? Why only Rivers State? Why did he choose Rivers State? I don't know. Maybe we should ask him that question. Come and answer us. Nigerian youth must ask the president, why not all the kidnapping? A whole first-class chief was unalive. Yeah, in declared state of emergency. Why Rivers State? Was so particular about Rivers State? In my opinion, the president they are setting is worrisome. Let there be equity, fairness in our country. God bless you, Pastor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He actually, Jonathan, according to my records, declared a state of emergency in 3 states, Borno and this and that. But what he did not do was to remove the sitting governor. Okay, he said there was a there, but he didn't breach the constitution. And I was listening to Ruben Abati, who was his communications advisor then, and he said categorically that there's nowhere in the constitution that allows for the removal of a governor. And this is a federal country, and the federal must stand for something. You can declare state of emergency, Ruben was saying, but the constitution does not allow the removal of the governor. So that we need to prove and to test. Let's listen to Dr. Akin Fakunda very quickly, and then we go to our speaker for this evening. Dr. Fakunda, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I just want us to focus on one or two things. Subsidy removal is not the problem, but look, the looting of the treasury from Jonathan time is being covered up. It's been covered up and nobody's talking about it. So many people were charged to court and nothing has happened. That's the massive divestment of federal government wealth to private hands. See what Emefiele did with round tripping of dollars. How can somebody make enough money to build 750 houses? This money has to be recovered. If you don't recover this money, Nigeria is bankrupt. You can't do power from 3,000 to 30,000 again if you don't recover the money that have been privatized. Let me not mention names. 1, 2, 3 banks belong to Nigerians. They don't belong to people who are the chairman now because they got all the money in the banks through round tripping of dollars while Emefiele was there. That's the real issue. It's not just to lift subsidy removal and all that. Government now Tinubu is sitting on all those massive looting over the years. We can't recover unless you do something about it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fakunda. We may come back to you later on. But let's go to our speaker for today, Dr. Charles Otudo, who is a brand ambassador, Nigeria's premier brand strategist and engagement consultant. I've introduced him before he came on, and we want him to look at this issue of Nigeria in transition. So, Dr. Charles, where is Nigeria in your own perspective? What do you think? What do you think is going on in Nigeria, and where are we, and what's your opinion? Please feel free to let us have your thoughts.
Okay. Good evening, Pastor. Once again, thank you for having me. Hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. I have some questions that were sent to me, which I already prepared in terms of the way I was speaking, the sequence. The first question is Nigeria in transition? Yes, Nigeria is a brand in transition. The biggest question we need to ask is Nigeria a brand or a product? Are we a product or a brand yet? For me, I think we're not yet a brand, we're a product, because we're not specialized. There's no core. We don't have a core yet in terms of our values and the stuff that drives us as a people. So yes, we're in transition. We're in transition right now. So one, we are in transition. Okay, now yes. Number two, if yes, what is Nigeria transiting from and what are we transiting towards? We're transiting from a point where we were not fully aware of our rights as a people. Nigerians are now very aware of the values that should drive democracy. Unlike before, where the leaders do whatever they want to do and they get away with it, Nigerians are talking now on all the platforms, on social media. We are now very aware as a people of our rights and what we're entitled to as, when you call yourself a citizen, what does it mean to be a citizen? A citizen comes with some rights already. So what are our rights? I think that we are all now aware of our rights and more aware of where we need to be as a people. So we are in transition from where we were before to a different level where we will speak up better. We will now add more value to our process. Decision making cannot be taken by a cabal of people. So now we are now transiting from where we're not aware of who we were before to where we're now more aware, and not just aware, we're also more vocal now, more vocal. 3, are we heading towards an intentional direction? Not fully yet, because we're not speaking in unison yet. If you remember, the NSAS was a game changer because for the first time, it brought everybody, irrespective of your party lineage, your affiliation, your philosophy. The NSAS protest brought everybody together on one premise to create awareness and then pause what was going on. And it worked. It really worked. So we are in transition. Okay. Now, what factors? Please, just a minute. Sorry, let me get this.
Putting on your video if you can.
Okay. Sorry for that. Sorry. I got a guest that just came in. So, okay. Okay.
Do you mind putting on your video?
Oh, yes, I don't mind. Go ahead.
Put on your video.
I'm trying to go to, yeah, okay. I've just done that.
All right.
Okay. So what factors should shape this proposed brand? I think that the factors that should shape us should be strictly based on our understanding of where we are and where we are going. Now, do we have values? What are our values? If you want to create the impossible, you must agree on the values that drive you towards your expected end. So we need to have core values. So if we ask ourselves now, what really drives us? What drives me? Okay, if you ask me, Charles, what drives you? I would say the values that drive me personally are principles that are based on my philosophy. One, intellectual competence, capacity, faith and trust in God, honesty, transparency. For some people, it's, the quest for wealth drives them. But so as a brand, we need to agree as a people, what should be that which will drive us all towards the proposed brand destination. Once we can identify all that, it puts us in a platform where it is not easy for all of us to achieve same. So what are the values that should drive us as a people towards an expected end? Integrity, consistency, discipline, honesty, spiritual depth, trust in God, trust in the system itself. And then with all those values put together, and then the other part is hard work. If you combine all this together, put it into the mix, that will put us in a platform where we are going towards an expected end. Okay? What identities and resources can we leverage towards achieving the brand we want to see? What are the resources? We are surrounded by resources, our human elements. Anywhere you go and you meet a Nigerian, you know we have arrived. That's why in some countries, they don't like us at all. They find us our confidence too irritating. You can't meet any Nigerian anywhere and you don't know we are Nigerians. So our confidence is one of our values that we have, the confidence and the will to excel in any environment, the will to excel. Okay, then what else? I think that this is the end of the questions. I don't know if there are other questions that you have lined up. I have only 6 questions here.
No, it's okay. I will ask the rest of the questions.
Okay.
From your own perspective, where are we in Nigeria? What is responsible for where we are? And maybe let me stop there. What's your opinion of where we are as a nation? And what has gotten us to where we are right now?
Okay.
And subsequent to that, which direction do you think we should be moving, and how can we do that?
Okay, I think where we are now is a point where we have not agreed as a people in terms of our values. We have not. We don't have a single platform where we all agree on the way forward. So where we are now is based on the fact that we are not united on what premise we should go forward. So that is one of the biggest issues we have now. And then poor leadership, very poor leadership. Our leadership is based on selfishness. Most of our leaders are not there because of the people. They are there because of themselves. So we need leaders, strong leaders that are focused more on in servitude, not self-service, but serving the people in terms of the yearnings of our people. Do they really understand the yearnings of Nigerians? So what has put us where we are now is very poor leadership, selfish leadership, and the fact that we as the people, we are not united on the platform of where we want to be next. That is a major issue we have right now. I'm waiting, Pastor.
Okay, so what do we need to do, Charles, to sort of move us away from this place where we found ourselves? And is there any hope for Nigeria? I was listening to some guy recently. He was talking to a group of young people, and he was saying that it's going to be difficult for Africa or any African state to make any progress because the fundamentals for progress are not there. It says no African state emerged of his own. They were forced and contrived contraptions. So you force the Hausa together with the Yoruba, with the Edo, with the Ilorin man, with the Igbo man, you force them together. You call them a name. There's most other nations have evolved with a common ethos. And as long as you don't have that common ethos, it's going to be difficult for you to agree on a common direction. What's your thinking about this?
I agree with you. I agree totally. The amalgamation of Nigeria was not intentional. It was forced. It wasn't like, I've always been talking about the Nigeria, a country in need of reoxygenation. What do I mean by that? One, based on how we were amalgamated and forced together, Nigerians have not been able to have a say in terms of where we want to go, where we want to be. And then secondly, we have a little issue with agreeing with what's the next step for us? What should be the next step? And at this point, the challenge will now be Nigerians agreeing that, oh, we are now here. For instance, if I want to go into a relationship, I must agree there are terms of reference between me and the other person or the other people in terms of where we need to be, where we are going, and then the conditions must be mutually agreeable. We don't have that yet. None, non-existent. So with that, we are going we are moving in different directions. So there's no unity in terms of our direction as the people. Finally, nobody has ever asked us, what do we want from our leaders? What do we want from Nigeria? If I'm going to hold a Nigerian passport, what should be the conditions for me to hold my Nigerian passport? What should Nigeria do for me or do with me? And what must I be able to give back to be a Nigerian? It has not been a discussion before. And it has to be, for us to go forward, it must be mutual and mutually beneficial, one, and then it must be put on the table where we all contribute to that discussion. It is critical.
So how can we galvanize ourselves as Nigerians to get this conversation going? How do we pull ourselves back What do you think we should do? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
I think the first step is having this type of discussions are independent and not from governments. When the private sector and individuals with genuine interests like this, who are respected, start having these discussions, with time, which will become a movement. So the first step is what you are doing now, also putting this discussion on the table, putting people together to discuss, and then not just a discussion. After this discussion, there should be a white paper or a communique that should be published in some natural papers. It shouldn't just be, oh, this 5, 20, 100 people sat down on one platform and agree. No, if we want to now move the discussion forward, it needs to be published. And then it should become a national discussion, not just us here. It should start with this type of platform, but the result must be now published as a communique in national newspapers and then other media platforms that will get Nigerians interested in the discussion. That for me is critical. Then it should not be a one-off. It must be consistent. For instance, if you talk about leadership this time, next time let's talk about the economy and that session. The third one, let's talk about safety. The fourth one, let's talk about housing. The fifth one, let's talk about the unemployment. The seventh one, let's talk about gender equality, women in the workplace. There are different topics that will come coming over a period of maybe 6 months, 1 year, and the communique continues to come out. It puts that on a national front burner debate. This is the way I think we must go. First step is what you have done, and it doesn't have to come from government. No. Individuals like you and I should make it our focus to bring this discussion to the national platform critically.
Okay, we're doing that and we're doing our best. What is going to emerge from this conversation is what we call our green paper, green book, and so on and so forth, which will be letting the government know either on an annual basis or something like that.
Awesome.
We have, so we'll try and get it in their faces, both the federal government and the state governments. I have a little question for you, and then I'm going to ask Pastor Sonny to take over.
Okay.
He may have 1 or 2 questions for you, and then he will conduct a series of question and answers from the other on the platform.
Okay.
Do you think there is hope for Nigeria? Because a lot of people really are restricted in their ability to make comments, and to speak freely and to speak boldly and to speak fairly. It's almost as though everybody, one way or the other, are being gagged. The very rich, and I've spoken to 1 or 2 of them in the past, don't want to talk because they don't want their businesses affected. In fact, I was reading a column about a very rich Nigerian, and one of his policies is to align with whatever government there is in power, because he doesn't or she doesn't want her business or his business affected. That's number 1. The very poor, like the NYSC girl, they are easily trampled upon, and they are being threatened, and they are being this, and they are being that, and they are being that. And now we see in Rivers State that power pass power, and so forth. But the key is that everybody is dodging their head, and nobody wants to come out and speak the truth, lest they be victimized. If there's such a situation, it's like Animal Farm. It's like the king dancing naked. It's like almost Hitler sort of thing in Germany. And we've seen this sort of thing before in different administrations, even in Nigeria. This is not the first time we're having this fear, of people wanting to comment and speak the truth and speak truth to power. And a few people who've tried it, they've been very, very brutalized, you know, and so on and so forth, even to the extent of losing their lives. People have died strangely. Many, many people died, you know, and most of the time it was because they were making one comment or the other. What do you think we are going to do, or how do you think this is going to shape out? And this is my last question for you, and I'm going to ask Sonny to take over. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that we've started the discussion. For us to get to where the desired destination, we need to continue to have this discussion amongst ourselves. They cannot continue to brutalize us forever. They will get tired. As long as we as humans and Nigerians will continue to talk about this as smaller groups and remain consistent in bringing up all these issues, the government cannot kill all Nigerians at the same time. But we need to consistently bring up these issues. It's just unfortunate what happened to the NYSC president, and then look at what's happening between the River State governor and so I think that they look at what's happening in the Senate between Akpabio and Natasha. I mean, we must consistently have our discussion. We can't give up, or else we will never get to the destined end. Let's continuously have this discussion. Let's not be discouraged. As long as we stand firm in our conviction about where we need to be as a people, we will get there. We will definitely get there. I believe that Nigeria has hope. The discussions have started. As long as we remain focused and remain consistent in this discussion, we will get there. That's my position on this one.
Okay, no problem. Sonny, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Dr. Charles, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
My name is Sonny Enibi.
Okay.
I will be looking at. So I want to take you back to your area of specialty, and as we look at Nigeria as a communication consultant and branding ambassador, and we saw what people like Dora Akuyele did when she was minister. It's not so much about what you say, but what you do. If you were given the job as a consultant to brand Nigeria, because I heard you talking about branding, whether we're a brand or a product, which are we? Brand, products? I don't know. Brand Nigeria. Will branding in itself change who we are, or will it make any significant difference? And if you were to brand Nigeria, how will you go about doing it so that we can get value out of Nigeria?
Okay, thank you for that question. There's a difference between branding, brand management, and advertising.
Okay.
What Dora did was just pure advertising.
Okay.
That was not branding. And I kept on criticizing throughout that period, and I wrote a lot of articles about it.
Okay.
You want to brand a people that are made up of different ethnic groups.
Yeah.
You need to have what I call the brand health check. The brand health check starts with somebody asking a select crop of Nigerians across Nigeria who we are and where we need to go first. You can't create a product or that is, you can't go, it's like going into a shower with your clothes on. Those are externalities. So for us to get this right, we need to ask the right question. Who are we as a people? There are fundamental questions that must be put into a black and white. So based on that, we now ask the final question. What is that single attribute that ties all of us together? There must be one that drives all of us. It could be, if for some people, for some we say it's water. It could be water, it could be hard work, it could be intellectual capacity, but we need to be, it has to be empirical, not assumed. It has to be empirical and not assumed. So once we now get that right, we start with the mindset change. The mindset change. You can't brand a country from the outside. You start with the people. We now start talking about the values that every Nigerian must imbibe. Once we get that together, we now go to the final level, where we now start selling those our values externally. That way, what we are saying we are is what we are. South Africa says they're the rainbow nation. There's a reason. It's made up of an amalgam of different peoples from different races, different races. So they're the rainbow nation. So what are we? We must define who we are from ourselves before we now sell who we are to the markets.
Right.
So it's
Thank you.
Internally first.
All right. Thank you for saying that. So, who will then help us to conduct this finding out who we are? Do we do a census? Do we send surveys, or do we have elected representative? How do we go about it? And if we then get it, how do we transition from using the responses we have gotten to forming a brand or a value based that is broadly acceptable?
Okay, once we get that study ready,
yes,
once it's executed,
yes,
we need to now sell it. You can't brand Nigeria.
Who will conduct that study? Who will do it?
It could be us, it could be you. I mean, it depends on your personal interest. If it's very important. And it could be a combination of both government and the private sector.
Okay. Okay. Are you frozen? All right. Maybe it's a bit frozen. I think we've been asking for a long time. Who will conduct? We need to do a referendum, whether we want to be together. Now you want us to identify a single national value. And we are an amalgamation of different people. What is important to the man in Ibira land may not be what the Ogoni man is looking for, and something that is valuable to, so if we come up with a conglomeration of 30 different values, how do we then itemize them and distill them and then get headway? In any case, if we get those values sorted, who becomes the values police that will ensure that Nigerians are adhering and keeping to these values, given that all the values we even grew up with, integrity, honesty, truthfulness, these values were still there in the 70s, maybe better in the 60s and even 50s. Okay? Today, our leaders who are supposed to be the kings that bear the rod for punishment and then the carrot for reward when you do good have become the value breakers. And then who then can we trust to enforce this kind of values, even if we do agree that this is a value for Nigeria? Important question. I don't know whether he's back on the platform, but just looking at what that is, it's important.
I think we lost him. He's not back on yet.
All right. So that's just on the values side. And then because we are looking at Nigeria, a nation in transition, I think the other question that I would really like to ask him, and when he comes, we'll find out, is how long will this transition go on? We have been in transition, just this democratic experiment for the last 25, 26 years. And the things that we thought we have gotten past in the first 4 years or the first 8 years, somehow 25, 26 years after, they are rearing up. And I had someone still calling our democracy a nascent democracy. And when we talk, they will be comparing it to America that is 300 years. Truth is, our leaders do not wait for 300 years to enjoy all the perks or even better of the things that people in this 300 years democracy are enjoying. But it's only when we talk about the dividends to the people that we bring this our democracy is nascent and new and it's in transition and we are still learning the process. And I agree. I agree that we are still testing the process. And I think we should really test the process. You know, this current state of impeachment that the president has done in Rivers is a call for us again to test the process, because this is akin to a military coup. Because the only reason why he could do that to the governor of Rivers State is because he has the power of coercion. He controls the military and all the apparatus of power. Having declared a state of emergency, he deployed the army into the state. They took over all the place. And if the governor or the people try to resist, the military will crush them. This is what they do in a military coup. Okay? And for us, I think we should go to court and really test it. If Governor Obi then did not go to court to test the potency of a governor that has been impeached and whether his tenure lapses after the 4 years, even though he was impeached and out of office for 2 years or 1 year, and the court now said, no, if you are impeached, when you come back, you must complete your full tenure. No, is he impeached? Yeah, or if you are removed or something. And then if he's a serving governor, or if the court gives a judgment against you, you know, that time Obi, they went to court to test that removal, impeachment of the governor. So if you're a serving governor and they go to court against you, like in the case of Edo State now, if the man challenging the governor there should win, he becomes the governor, he will serve 4 years from the beginning of the date he enters. But if it's a serving governor, you will just complete your 4 years. A governor had said that because, no, I think he did rerun. He did rerun.
The speaker is back, sir.
Okay, the speaker is back. Dr. Charles, you are welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I don't know whether you got any part of my question before you went off.
Yes, this last part, yes, a bit of it about the governors and stuff. My network just failed here. Totally.
Yeah, it happens.
I had to change my position.
Okay. It happens at times. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
So I was talking really about, maybe the question I would like to start with is, we say we're a nation in transition and we have been in this transition. Even just looking at the last 25 years or 26 years that we have been transiting this democracy, we have had several elections. And with each election, we try to make our electoral process better and stronger. But each time we see what happens. Which kind of transition are we transitioning? A transition to an endless nowhere. And then added to that is, they say we're a nascent democracy. We are just 25 or we are young. They compare us to America. And I say the people that compare us to America are not waiting to enjoy what the leaders of the American democracy are enjoying. They enjoy the best cars that the American leaders are enjoying. They travel the best comfort. But when it comes to the dividend of democracy for the people, they say we're a young democracy and that we should be patient. How long?
I think that democracy is a process.
Yes, I agree.
It's a process. And it took America almost, a lot of years of trial and error, over 100 years. You can't get democracy the way we want it in a hurry. So I am of the opinion that we're still in transition. The desired end, our desired end cannot be achieved in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. We are still in transition. So, but the question is, what type of democracy do we want? Someone told me some time ago that what we need is African democracy. So I asked, what's the meaning of African democracy? They said we can't have the British type of democracy where we have the Queen, or we can't have the American type of democracy. So the question is, what type of democracy do we desire? Then if we can define the type of democracy we desire, we can now put together our own standard style of democracy that is peculiar. We have kings and queens and emirs in those days. what will be their roles in our democracy. So we can't just discard where we are coming from and just jump 100% into the British or the American democracy. No, 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 no. We need to have a home-groomed or home developed type of democracy that is peculiar to us. We need to define our own type of democracy. This democracy is just not functioning. I can't even feel it.
So what will you describe? How would you want to define the democracy for us? What kind of democracy should we be talking
I'm not
about?
a politician.
No, from an outside point of view as an observer, what areas do you think we can tinker with? What if you were to make some suggestions?
Okay. I strongly believe that the federal system of government is not working. Let's look at the nomenclature. Let's look at our nomenclature. Look at how we are. The resources are controlled at the center. And then they decide how they share the resources. The resources are developed, actually accruable from the Niger Delta. And then they go to the center and share it. Our constitution right now is not a reflection of the reality on ground. Our development is not balanced. It's too much at the center. And then our style of governance from the local government to the states, there's too much power in the hands. How can one man have access to 27 billion and nothing happens? He steals the people blind. I think we should define the type of democracy we want from the quality of the leadership now. No one person should have access to our resources. It must be mutual and it must be collectively controlled so that, for instance, if you have a vote, you have your key, I have my key. The third person has the key. We all agree on the way to divide, to rule ourselves one. The form of democracy that should work for us, it should not be based on one person's idea. It must be collective. We must have that collective, that discussion about where we want to go and how we want to get there, and then how our resources are controlled, and then how we share the resources. But the challenge, another challenge we have now is that development is not even. It's very imbalanced. So a lot of people at both the local governments, the state, are not very, very happy with where we are and how we are governed. It must be a discussion. There must be a discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think I get something from what you have said, and
okay,
it just sort of gives me an idea of what happens in the West. So not one single person controlling the resources and dishing out, even though we have a constitutional quota arrangement that says the federal government takes 30%, I think another 40 or so percent goes to the state, another 30% to the local government. But who aggregates all these things and begins to share it out like we say? In the West, you have local municipalities, you have states. They have their projects tied. The president does not control the power of the purse, so to speak. And I'm not talking about America now. I'm talking about some countries in Europe. The president is not in absolute control of how they disburse monies. No. Monies have statutory allocation that goes to different agencies and parastatals, whether or whether or not. So if the president needs extra money to do anything, he has to look for that money. So the president cannot just wake up at Infiato and say, I'm donating 100 million to Women's Liberation League. From where? Where did you take that money from? So
exactly.
So that's something that I think, so all the money, whether it is money that comes in from taxes or from oil or from the agencies that collect revenue, because that's another thing that we're not looking at. But fine, There are a few people that want to ask you questions, and I will let them take you up on it. And maybe they have to make their own comment also on the kind of transition that we are experiencing. Although somebody has said on the platform that we don't need 100 years or 200 years to get to where America got to. That's why we do history, so that we don't repeat the mistakes they make. We can learn. Singapore did not need all this number of years to transition, to be honest. They had honest leaders, which was something you alluded to, that were ready to move us in the right direction. When Awolowo developed the Western region in the 50s to 60s, it didn't need 100 years to do that. It was going in the right direction. And I think everybody knows if we are going in the right direction. I just don't think Nigeria is going in the right direction. That's my own personal feeling. But let me open the floor up for questions and contributions. What we do here is that the people will engage you. They may ask you a question, they may just make a comment or a contribution, whichever way, and we take like 3 together and then we'll let you respond to it. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah, that's okay. Please.
So the first man is Olu. Olu, you are muted. You can go ahead and speak, and then I'll come to Boyo, and then Dr. Akin, Jeff, and Pastor Funke. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Uncle Charles, for being here. I see Chief Bolaji Ayorinde in the chat. If he's here, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria, and his attendance has prompted me to make my own few comments. Hopefully, we can bring him up to discuss. So I'm a legal practitioner, and I'm very worried about the role of lawyers and judges and the courts in this transition that we are in. So for me personally, before now, we would always say that the court is the hope, last hope of the common man, all right? I think that we should put that in context, all right? Does it still remain the hope of the last hope of the common man? What have the courts benefited Nigerians in this transition? Does it look like we need to deconstruct the Nigerian judicial system, or is it still fit for purpose in all of this? Because the president hinged his declaration of state of emergency upon the inability, so to speak, of enforcement of the Supreme Court judgment. Whereas the same Supreme Court talked about allocation of resources. The state governors are negotiating it. They've not implemented it. But the president has stood on he quoted copiously from the judgment of the Supreme Court regarding Rivers to declare state of emergency. So if we could have Chief Bolaji Ayorinde, the SAN, he's my senior at the bar. Does he want to tell us what the role of the courts have been? Okay, does it look like there's still some hope in our judicial system? How have we contributed positively or negatively to where we are as a people? Thank you very much for the opportunity, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, I will just allow Chief Bolaji, can you allow Chief Bolaji to unmute? Let's see.
We've asked him to.
All right. Chief, you can unmute and maybe you can respond to the question. Thank you very much, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening to all the other participants. I thought I would just do more of listening today and not be speaking on anything as of now.
A big fish cannot hide.
Yes. It is clear to us, whether you are a lawyer or not, that the judiciary at this point cannot be said to be fit for purpose. Because basically, my own attitude to the judicial system, to law, is that it is supposed to be a service provider to the polity. First of all, it's an independent arm of government, and it is supposed to serve the public. It is supposed to be a guide for both the executive and the legislature. At this point, I will be the first to admit that it is not doing so. The public perception of the legal system is at its lowest. And I've been around for quite some time to know that the same judiciary has seen many highs in the past, but we cannot say that as of today. And mainly that has been because of inconsistencies. We need to be very consistent so that the decisions can be predicted. When a matter arises, it should be very easy to predict that this is the way the courts will go. And when that happens, not too many of these matters will arise because the politicians, they will know their limits. The case in Rivers is an example because there have been decisions in the past which practically go against where the Supreme Court has gone this time around. So it creates a lot of doubt as to the competence and the integrity of the system. But all is not lost. The judiciary must reinvent itself, and that is possible because there are more good eggs in the system than bad eggs. And stakeholders must come together, reinvent the judiciary so that it can support the structures of democracy. That is what is needed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We truly appreciate that. And
thank you.
When very senior lawyers like you begin to cast doubts on the integrity of the judiciary, then we should take it very seriously. Thank you very much. We will call on Omadele Boyo. Allow Boyo to unmute and speak. After that, we'll have Dr. Akin Faponda. You can unmute yourself, sir. Omadele Boyo.
Hello.
Hello.
Am I being heard?
Yes, you are being heard.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share a few of my views.
Yes.
Psalm 11, verse 3 says, if the foundations be destroyed, what will the righteous do? And I placed some versions in the chat room, not just the righteous, what can a good man do if the foundations have already collapsed? The truth of the matter is that most of us here are elitists, degree holders and speaking English here. The average Nigerian in the village doesn't even need democracy as we see it today. What they need is water, good water, sanitation, healthy living. The conditions in this country vary a lot. I've had the privilege of traveling around nearly all the states in Nigeria as a medical doctor, and I've seen that our aspirations are different. And Dr. Tudo said we need to have maybe a referendum. We can't get anything from a referendum because we are very, very different. And many areas of this country, poverty has been so weaponized that people don't even know where they are from or what they are doing anymore. Only 10%, 6.7% of the population of Nigeria is above 60. We are faced with an army of about 75% of Nigerians that have never seen a good time before. And these people are growing up and they're becoming very restless. All those things about the 60s, the 70s, which I'm unfortunate to have seen. I haven't crossed 66. So I know what it's all about. But the point is, from Jigawa State to Kano State, these people are not being led by politicians. They are led by their emirs. They are led by what you may call influencers in society, mainly Islamic clerics. And when you come to the Middle Belt, there's a similarity, semblance of reasoning going on there, in that the chiefs are not totally in control of them, but the cultures are still different. Come down to the southeast, there are no kings in the southeast. Everybody is a king, as it were. Go to the southwest, then you have the kings. You have people bowing down to the Obas and listening to what the Oba is more popular in most states in the southwest, more powerful than even the governor. The British had a peculiar problem, which my younger brother, who happens to be in the British Council, had access to archives, found that Nigeria and India were the most difficult countries to colonize and rule over by the British, and they had to run away. Because by the time they got to most other countries in the world, they had not developed the kind of systems that had been in India and Nigeria, in religion, in governance, and everything. So yes, we look scattered, but we were in kingdoms, and we were running our kingdoms in poverty, no doubt. But then we were ruling over each other, destroying ourselves, coming back in, and kings were in control. The Europeans will remove the Portuguese and concentrate on our immediate lords, the British. How long were they in Nigeria? The colony of Lagos was conquered in 1860 or thereabout. The British did not stay so long in Nigeria because they met a very difficult people. Difficult in their reaction to the white. The African respects the white man, except the Nigerian. Whether you go to Europe, America, everywhere, Nigerians don't feel any threat about the white man. They are so imposing, and they are so what would I call it, confident in themselves. The basis of our unity is that we don't understand our regions. We have brought together an amalgamation of peoples with different tribes, different control systems, and different goals. That's why when you ask the brand expert, I was surprised he was pushing the ball back to us when he said, who should conduct this thing? We can't push it back to us. You tell us, okay, let this thing be done. We have about 200 universities in this country teaching sociology and mappings and things like that. We should be able to know who Nigerians are. My little experience as a public health consultant and also working primary health care in over eight states in Nigeria, we are very different. Our attitude to health, our attitude to religion, our attitude to anything is not the same. And so the foundations of this country have been worsened now by the failure of the rule of law. From the young child in primary school to the adult, MD of a company, we can buy our way out of any legal quagmire. We can, when the money is right, you get the right judge. Like they say, Awolowo ọmọ Body Thomas, Awolowo ọmọ Rotimi Williams, Akitola ọmọ Ademola. You know, meaning Awolowo knew the great lawyers in the country, but his counterpart on the other side knew the Chief Justice. It may look like a joke, but the truth of the matter is that the youngest Nigerian knows that you can buy your way through the system, whether it's the police station, even in the church, where I happen to be a pastor. If you are wealthy, you can buy your way through the church. So we need to sit down and ask ourselves, who want to be a country? Do we qualify for a country? If we qualify for a country, the basic foundational ethos must be resolved. Why is it difficult to build a church in Sokoto Township, but it's easier to build a mosque in Enugu or in Lagos? There are strongholds in Nigeria, from the current Borno through the Sokoto Caliphate, through the Middle Belt, through everywhere. There are strongholds that are resisting a concept called Nigeria. So we have to pull down and restructure that foundation. That's why I say, if the foundation be destroyed, what can a good man do? So we need to, first of all, ask ourselves the same question our brand experts pass back to us. Do we need a Nigeria? If we need a Nigeria, how many of these various kingdoms, the Oba of Benin in the city of Benin is more powerful than the governor of Benin?
Okay, sir. Maybe we'll call you for a special session, but We truly appreciate.
All right, let me just round up. Let me just round up
okay.
therefore. I can round up here. I can round up here. I can round up here by saying that we need to develop a democracy that is unique to us, that will take into cognizance the kings and the rulers and various parts, which is virtually impossible. So we sit and ask ourselves this question: do we need a Nigeria? If we need a Nigeria, can we make the sacrifices? Can each of these various groups make the sacrifices and the compromises to form this country? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very, very insightful comment. I think there was a lot to unpack in all that you have said. And maybe we would reach out to you and probably get you as one of our guests in our future sessions so that we can speak to you on specific issues. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Akin Pakunda, you are free to speak. Please, let's make it brief. There are a lot of people that want to talk.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I must commend our pastor and ALG for doing this for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
This body and then Pastor Koduima, they have been doing these kind of things in the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. We're having fatigue. We are talking about the same thing over and over and over again. Yet we need to stop working in silos and see how we can get some think tank group to harmonize all we have been saying all these years. The speaker said, oh, things are happening. Look, we can be like Congo. Since 1962, Congo has never known peace, and they are the richest country in the world. We can continue for the next 50 years if we keep talking and talking and talking and we don't act. I believe that. What do we need to do? We need to midwife talks about Nigeria. It's not possible because all nations of Nigeria, as the last speaker said, they are on equal footing. Nobody can agree that, oh, let us discuss so that we can agree. No. Historically, we have had 2 talks, 56 to 60. It was midwife by the British. 67, General Ankara midwife another talk in Aburi. Meaning that we cannot on our own talk among ourselves to really decide what we want to do. I want us to think about the possibility of getting some external eminent person like Thabo Mbeki, whatever, to come and be the moderator so that all the sub-nations and nations of Nigeria can sit down and talk. We cannot do it on our own. I know that for sure. Yet, we need a confederal arrangement. We have gone beyond federalism. We need a confederal arrangement where everybody can do his own the way the last speaker painted a very good picture. We are just different. We cannot have one brand. We cannot. But who will moderate the talks? Who will be the arbiter? Who will be the referee? We can't do it ourselves. What am I saying, sir? This body need to set up a small group of people and then reach out to other bodies like this. And so they can form a platform that will push the elites to see reason. The elites now want to capture power and just sit on all money. That's what they were interested in. So we have to have something beyond this talk. It's getting monotonous. We are doing very well talking and talking and talking, but we have to do something fundamental. Otherwise, we'll be like Congo. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think Jumoke will speak to that. She is in charge of working on the coalition, and we're indeed working with some other groups. As you may know, it's just like trying to form a political coalition, and it's difficult. Different groups like ours have different objectives and whatever, but we are trying to push for a coalition so that we can come up with a common position. And Jumoke will speak to that at the end of this whole exercise. And I think yours is also a comment, not a question, just like the one of Boyo, Dr. Boyo. So I will take Jeff to see whether he has a comment or a question as well. If it's a comment, then we'll just keep taking all the people one by one. Dr. Charles, just bear with us. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sani, and good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
My position is not to ask a question, but of course, to make some comment. And they're just basically three things so that I don't repeat what every other person have said.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that education is the foundation of the Nigerian problem. And the reason why I say education is I'm not talking about academics and, school and stuff like that, but the understanding of the history of Nigeria and how we've become a nation, and for us to clearly ask the question from the name to the amalgamation to the declaration and how we've sort of emerged into the nation that we are today. I believe that we are not educated enough to understand that the foundation is very faulty. I usually make a joke that even the name came out of a love story. It's not like we decided that we want to be together, neither should we be called a particular name. Somebody just said to call us Nigeria, and we accepted it. So, I mean, for me, the fact that we are not knowledgeable about who we are, and just like Doctor said, I have also traveled length and breadth of Nigeria. I mean, in Kano, you have the Islamic law and the Sharia, and no drinking and all of that. But just the very next state, Katsina, that is the state of hospitality. I mean, you smoke and drink in public, and they still practice the same Sharia. So you have to question what is different between Kano and Katsina. And so for me, I believe that there are some things that are just a matter of convenience, and everybody just wants to do whatever they choose to do within their state. And this is definitely affecting us because there are too many fragments and people having different views. And so this brings me to the second thing. And the second thing is leadership. We have leaders, we have politicians, but the thing I have seen clearly is that every nuisance or anyone who has shown the capacity for cluelessness to shout and to display some level of affluence by buying votes is automatically given the title leader. Meanwhile, that's not true. I mean, a lot of these people cannot be near anything called a leader if we actually look at the full and the understanding of what a leader must look like. And so for me, we need to also look back again, based on the foundation of education, we have leaders in Nigeria. I mean, just not to blow any trumpet. I mean, we have lots of leaders on this platform. But what I see is that the leaders that we have in this country are not in politics. And the politicians have just seen the vacuum, and they've seen that we have a people who would put upon them the title leader only because they decide to display some values that doesn't make any sense, and INEC make a declaration and they automatically become a leader. So we need to look at our value system rightly in leadership. And finally, the issue of the Nigerian dream, and this is what I call it. I mean, we need to ask ourselves, the youth comfort, whether it's going to happen or not. What I had advocated is that there must be conversation at the CDA level. I mean, at the cluster of the very community that people reside. Those conversations can then be cascaded to the local government level, from there to state, and then to the federal government. Anything outside that, what we would discover is another charade or group of people who are clueless about what is going on in Nigeria as a whole. And so from there, we then need to find out that do we really need this nation, Nigeria, to stand as one, or we need it to run individually within the cluster of common value system? Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. We totally appreciate your contribution. I will crave the indulgence quickly, please, of Pastor Funke Helen. Saudatu wants to say something because she's leaving. She has another meeting. If Saudatu is on, is Saudatu or Sadatu? If you are muted, you can please go ahead and make your comment, and I'll come to Pastor Funke Helen and Auntie Yemisi.
Thank you, and good evening, stars and mass on the call.
Good evening.
My name is Sadiq Mahdi, and I want to commend ALT as usual and the group for what they are doing. Sorry, I'm rushing off to the list. It's already the fast breaking time of the fast. So I just want to bring up something that has always been on my mind. concerning where is Nigeria and where are Nigerians. What do we want to do with our country and what do we want to do with our identities? My worry has always been around our capacity to understand, accept, and negotiate our diversities. However, we're put together, it's something that has happened and we cannot do much about it. Number two, moving up as a unit probably has been proven more beneficial than going our little ways, either as kingdoms, emirates, chiefdoms, or whatever. So if we are all agreeable that moving as a unit, as an entity of Nigeria, irrespective of the diversities that we have, is more beneficial than having to fragment ourselves, then we should be serious about one, recognizing that diversity is inherent. Diversity is also something that could be flipped to the benefit of its owners. The second thing also is to say, is it impossible to negotiate our diversities and exist as an entity? And if it is possible, then what do we do and how do we do it? There have been many efforts in terms of the kind of convenings that are being suggested in this meeting about how we can sit down and negotiate these things. Government has put together, people, civil society has done this. But I think what has deluded us is that sincerity of purpose that entails us respecting our differences and then harnessing them as our strength. And I think the sooner we do, we are able to do that, the better for us. Then there's also the context of history. A lot of times you hear people speaking to things, even on this platform, in this conversation, I've had things that, honestly speaking, as an activist of over 30 years, I find difficult to believe that elites of our standing still hold those kind of views, which are mostly arising from incomplete knowledge and then also fragmentation. So I would strongly suggest that we go back to the roots of our dialogue. Dialogue as a nation with the sincerity of purpose, with a removal of the pains that have divided us, of the pains that we have eluded or that have eluded us in terms of unity. I like the example that was given earlier on, I think it was by the main speaker, about the fact that when you brand or when you advertise, it is not just the product, it is who is the messenger and who is the seller. We have the very good example he made. NAFDAC had existed many years before Dora came on board. But it isn't Dora that was sold, it was the vision of a country that should be responsible for the production of good quality products for the health of its people. That was what she was selling. That was what was an affront against her principles and against her vision. It wasn't her, it was the principles and the values that were discussed earlier on. So my final take, so that I can run away, thank you for the opportunity, is as a nation, we need to do three things. First of all, accept the fact that we benefit more by remaining a unit. We've seen what has happened with other countries that have tried so many things. We've seen military expeditions in this country and in other countries, and we have chosen to remain a unit. Now we need to agree how to remain a unit, and that should come through the dialogue of understanding and accepting and negotiating our diversities and living with them and agreeing on what extent yours come and mine come. And then thirdly is to say, who does it? I think the youth of this country now have a responsibility. Unfortunately, we have failed them in the kind of education we have given them. We have given them narratives that rather than consolidate them, keeps dividing them further. If you go on the social media and see the conversations around issues arising in this polity, you want to wonder, what have we left for our youth? We need to be serious about getting their energies channeled properly and then giving them the narratives that keep them unified. They should not be taking the baggage we have taken as a nation. I started activism in 1974 as a 15, 16-year-old person. But I'm yet to see what I'm looking for. And now we have a techie youth population that is bulging from all ends, ill-educated, ill-prepared, and then we are blaming them for not being who they should be. I think the last thing we need to do is to say, okay, we are burnt out. What do we do to ensure that this conversation, this dialogue goes to our youth and also is driven by our youth to the benefit of our youth and the survival of Nigeria as an entity. Thank you and over. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adetu. I think that was a very, very balanced contribution from the other half of the Niger. You know, and we appreciate your contribution, and we hope to have you on. I don't know whether we've had you before on this platform, maybe, yeah. But maybe we need to hear from the other side so that we get all sides of the contributions from all corners of the country, and let's really know what we think. Thank you very much for that. Dr. Charles, I hope you are still around. We have not ignored you. I think largely today people are just making comment, not questions. Is Dr. Charles still on the platform? Okay, I will move to Pastor Funke Awolowo. You can allow her to unmute, and then after that will be Helen. Helen, I don't see your, okay, Helen's hand is still up. Pastor Funke Awolowo, you can unmute and make your comment. Jumoke? Allow Pastor Funke to...
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Pastor Funke.
Please,
I don't see her.
Okay, all right. If Funke will...
Oh, yeah, she is. I see her, sorry. Her hand was down.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Good evening.
Yeah, good
and I really enjoyed this so far. I want to say something, that growth is inevitable. You know, the fact that we missed out on, you know, our chiefs, our obas, oloris, taking a huge part in governance is like me asking, can we really retrogress? Because we've gone so far. We've adopted American style, British style. So how do we get to grips with the African kind of leadership? You know, even as the title of this group depicts, because it's like the way Nigeria is like we went through primary school, missed out on secondary school, then went straight to university. How do you feel that vacuum? That's a question. And also, secondly, somebody was saying people like Awolowo, they know Ademola and everything. But I remember last week saying that a lot of Papa's success, our successes, was rooted in grassroots politics. The Agbekoyas, what they did, how they were able to enlighten the masses so that you see people on the streets fighting for their rights. Now, you know, a great deal of the masses, we have missed them, you know, and it's just a very few people that are ruling and benefiting from today's governance. And so, you know, the average man does not really have a say. And that's why we have what they call in Ibadan Amala politics, in this side, rice and Gari politics, because the people, they don't have a sense of patriotism, so to speak, you know, whereby they know that this is their future, their children, and their very livelihood. Like today, as I speak now, there's no NEPA and all that. All these things has to do with leadership. Then it goes back to the kind of leadership that we have. I spoke about it online. That Hitler, you know, as soon as he started talking about the Aryan race, you know, that is so typical to Germany, the people followed him. Because the nature of the Germans, the First World War started with Germany, they liked that kind of control, and he was able to put them together and make a force, you know, a formidable force. And somebody did ask, what is it that we have in common that will make us so concerted and everybody will fight together? And really, I'm asking us again, what is it that will bring us together as a nation? The North, the South, somebody is saying, yeah, is because we are not educated. We're so different. We are so different. So how do we bring, we've done the confab, we've done all, you know, but these things, they're actually, you know, overemphasizing the difference between the, you know, the North, the South, the West, and the East. How do we bring them together? It's a work, like he said, the speaker said, we really need to go back to the table, talk about it, and form it out. Also, the last one, we need to bring a journalist on this thing because, it will look like futility if we don't. These things must be out there. We must help the government of the day because every day we, argue these things, we debate. I feel that the government of the day needs to adopt some of the things that we're saying. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I totally appreciate that. Everything we say here come out in 2 national dailies every week.
Okay.
Yeah, everything we say here is being published and reproduced in 2 national dailies. I think Punch and one other paper, I can't remember.
Excellent.
Maybe Jumoke will be able to remind us of that. But really appreciate your comments.
Vanguard and Independence.
Okay, Vanguard and Independence. Thank you, Lara.
Yes.
So it comes out every week, and we are compiling a compendium of all the conversations we've had so far, and we'll send it to all the people that need to have it. And like Dr. Fakunda said, more importantly, is forming that necessary coalition that can challenge some of these things and push forward some of these ideas we are propagating every week here. Thank you very much again, Pastor Funke. I will call Helen Essien. Please, I'll really plead, time is far gone. If we can just keep it to like 2 minutes so that Yemisi Ransom Kuti, Boniface, and Omonwa can still have opportunity to speak. Helen Essien, I beg you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go straight to the point. So we've said so much this evening, but there's something I think that we have avoided, and that is state capture. Yeah. We've had all these problems, before, but it seems to be worse this time around. And I think that the reason why it's worse is because we're actually facing state capture. So we see a situation where the whole entire Senate and the House of Reps say yes to an illegal action by the government. None of them said no. Doesn't that make us really worried? What are we doing about state capture as it is facing us now as a threat? What are we doing about it? Thank you.
All right. What are we doing about it is a question that we need to answer. And maybe if Dr. Charles, are you still on the platform, please?
I don't see him.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Auntie Yemisi Ransom Kuti, maybe you can go ahead with your comments, and then we'll have Boniface Chizia if he's still there, and then we'll have Omogu. Thank you. And those that will wrap up with those. Thank you very much, Helen, for your question. And I think it's a pregnant question for all of us to answer. Auntie Yemisi, go on.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Sonny. Good to see you and see everybody.
Thank you.
I was hoping Mr. Tudo would be here. I had a question for him. Anyway, I wanted somebody said the British, their rule over West Africa was truncated for some other reason. The reason they left is because of the mosquitoes that dealt with them. So that's why we have to be kind to our mosquitoes here for liberating us. And that's why they governed through the natives and the traditional rulers. And that's a topic I think we have to now explore at some other time, how those rulers have, governed at the time and how they collaborated with our oppressors and stuff like that. Now, transition is painful. I'm sure we all recognize that. I know we don't want our leaders to be exempt from, that we want them to participate in our pain, but the reality is that it is painful, and we have to develop coping mechanisms for our mental health, for our economic health, for our spiritual health, and all of that. All of us have to understand that, but we also have to have the goal in mind of why we're suffering and what's going to happen at the end of the suffering that we are going through. Because the communication, I think, from the government is not enough. I was listening to the press briefing today from the ministers of Foreign Affairs and Bumi Ojo, Internal Affairs. They're doing something, but it's not enough. It is something that we have to encourage them to make sure that those messages those information about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and that feedback system that must be developed so that citizens can also make their complaints, have a feedback system that allows the citizens to engage with their elected leaders is absolutely critical. I wanted to ask Mr. Otudo whether he had actually studied the National Orientation Agency's programs and strategies so that he can tell us whether it fits in with the kind of suggestions that he's making about branding and that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, if we can ask him and if he can give us
Yeah,
some response.
we'll get back to him on that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, we talked about what type of democracy we want, and I think it's critical. And the Saudat talked a lot about our differences. So really, we need to look at the type of democracy we want, whether it's a Rwandan type of democracy, a Singaporean type of democracy. Even the Chinese tell us they have a democracy, but because they have a process of selection. So we have to have an idea of what kind of democracy we want. And the Rivers conundrum that happened, to me, was just a perfect example of the kind of democracy we're running. Because I wasn't surprised that it ended the way it did because of the clownish and totally incomprehensible stuff that was going on there. People running the state with 3 people and burning this one, and it was just totally unacceptable. It made us a laughing stock. So I wasn't surprised that it ended the way it did, because once the oil was affected and they started breaking pipelines, which is the bloodline of our nation, once that was affected, I knew that all bets were off and we were likely to get to have the kind of results we have. Another thing I think we have to have an agreement on, what do you mean by rule of law? What does rule of law mean to the rest of us? When the NYSC lady made her complaint she broke the rules of the NYSC. Whether that rule was a good one, a bad one, she broke the rule. When Natasha decided not to sit in the place that was given to her, she broke a rule. Whether it's a good rule or a bad rule, it's that's not the point I want to make. It is that as a people, do we agree that rules apply to all of us? It's not just the few, it's not just the rich, it's not just the poor. So that kind of consensus, I think, is also important, that everybody, that is what makes other nations a little bit different. Those who have, transitioned and evolved to a more a functioning democracy, is that there's a rule of law. Whoever you are, if you break it, you pay. So that's another thing I think we should focus on.
Yeah.
And finally, we need to have evidence and facts-based interventions. People, arguing through the emotions and getting abusive and pulling things down and thinking this one is terrible, everybody's this and that. It's not going to work because the people we're really addressing are not listening. They can't hear us. We need to have the intellectual, they don't want to hear us anyway. We need to have that intellectual rigor and less hysteria about the kind of advocacy we are trying to advance. And I really agree with the gentleman who said, look, engagement at the grassroots is what's going to turn the tide. It's going to be the long haul because we all want quick fixes and it's not going to happen quickly. So if we want the results over time, we have to engage with the people at the grassroots. I want to thank you very much again, and Pastor Sonny, always jabbing at us, making us think.
Thank you very much. We truly appreciate your comment. We see a balanced word of caution that everybody needs to obey the law and the rules. Thank you. Dr. Boniface Chizia.
I think Omonua had his hand up first.
Okay, Omonua. Omonua, I see there.
We've asked him to unmute, so maybe you can go to the next.
Thank you, Jumoke. I didn't mention you. I don't want you to feel left out.
Hello. Omonua speaking. Hello.
We can hear you.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
My name is George Omogun. I live in New York. Pastor Istwa, nice seeing you again. Actually, I was one of the DG who hosted your brother here, Aswin Udalo. And I supported him very well, but you know what? I swear not to participate in Nigeria politics anymore because the way they are doing things there is very frustrating. And I'm one of those Nigerians here in the diaspora who are willing to help those who come here. I run a business here. And I told Jumoke, I said, I'm tired of talking. People just keep talking, no action taking. Actually, I never wanted to be in this meeting, but I was on your last meeting. Was it last month? And I listened throughout. People just keep talking, and I'm tired of talking. Look at what our president is doing now in Nigeria. And, the same thing they did to our candidate, Aswin Udalo. We won that election in Edo State, but you know what? We are still fighting behind. And we put a petition together because, thank God, I was very close to the Foreign Affairs Chairman, United States Congress, Gregory Miss. I've been involved in his campaign here many times. He knows me one-on-one very well. But all I can say, I've done what I'm supposed to do here. But things are still going on there. What can we do to change the people in Nigeria? Even we in diaspora, we don't really have say. They look at us that people like us like, oh, what can we provide? So they really don't want us to involve in Nigeria politics. So how we in the diaspora here can involve in Nigeria politics? Actually, I was also the DG who hosted Obaseki. And after he became governor, he threw many of us away and turned back.
Mr. George, sorry, because of time. If you don't mind just wrapping up in terms of your question is, how can we as Nigerians and the
because,
people,
let me just wrap up. Okay, how can we Nigerians change the way of politics in Nigeria? Thank you, Jumoke.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, very quickly. Do we still have Dr. Boniface Chizia on the line?
Yeah, we have him, and we have Auntie Tomori, Auntie Fumi's hand up as well.
Again, can we still take Auntie Tomori? Okay, Boniface quickly, and we'll go to the closing wrap-up session. Dr. Boniface.
Try to prevent M23 continued info.
We've asked you to unmute.
Okay, that's fine. I think I was having some difficulties trying to unmute. Well, I spoke earlier. Somehow, I got arrested. I spoke quite extensively. Yeah. I think that really, the point I want to emphasize is that in this country, unless and until we can fight corruption, fight it to a stop, we're not going to make any progress. I want to emphasize that, Now, the leader spoke earlier, and she talked about state capture, but that's what I started with. And I did predict, that this what's happening now in terms of emergency and so on and so forth. That outcome was predictable, and we all knew it was going to come, and it happened that way. People are being caught with their hands in the tail, and there are no consequences. And so state capture, so it's because of corruption. So there must be, I think, for us as a nation, the focus must be, how do we bring corruption to an end? We talk about democracy. Democracy is not. It's just one Shama election that's the wish of the people. That's democracy. We don't have to wait for years to say we have a democracy. It's already happening in Ghana. Ghana, they've changed. Opposition parties have won presidency for about 3 times now. So it's happening just next door. So it's not something. It's not something that is not rocket science. So I think there's something that we can debut here. But I think we need to fight corruption. We have governors that have been caught with their hands in the till. And then after some time, nobody has anything again, and that one has just been caught again, has built mansions and so on and so forth, stolen billions of naira. And you wait after some 6 months, and that's it. It's all quiet. So settlement has been done behind the scene, and so on. Monies have been shared. And we must fight corruption to an end. Okay, sir. So I want to leave it there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. We must fight corruption. Thank you very much. Do we still have any hands up? I don't.
The hands up.
They're down. I really want to appreciate you. I will hand over back to Jumoke to maybe speak to 1 or 2 issues, and then Pastor Itra will come up to close the session. Really thank you for all those that have put in comments and questions, but the conversation goes on. Our guy from New York, we will keep talking until talk brings change. We truly appreciate everybody's comment. Jumoke, over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Pastor Tony. Good evening, everyone. I just want to talk about the coalition that we're working on, and also talk just the point of information. Conversations like this help us be more informed. It is part of planning for action. We can't just take action without understanding the issues and being strategic about planning the action. So we ask that you bear with us. It's complex. We're going to keep talking until we can come up with a foolproof strategy that will help us to be more successful. So that's just point of information. And while we're talking, there are some things that are also happening. The youth engagement at ALG, for example, we're working with the youth to help them have conversations like this. So please get engaged and get involved with us. The coalition that Pastor Sonny mentioned, we've been working with a group of civil society organizations, and it's called Coalition for Participatory Governance. Again, we're in the planning stages. We want to make sure that we are aligned, that the vision is common and everyone plugs in, because that's very critical. And once we have that work plan, we definitely will put it out there for everyone, and as many that are like-minded to also get on board. If we don't have a strong strategy, then it becomes anything goes, and we can be pulled in different directions. And TMEC is also working on that. We have a few organizations, SERAP, Budget, and a few of these organizations that have really been out there pushing for good governance are part of that coalition. And we're going to build on more, but we need to develop that outline. So that is what I have to add to in terms of clarifying what that coalition is. Was there anything else you needed?
No, that's okay. I think Pastor Itra can come up now. It's we're on top of the hour now.
Lasts forever.
Pastor, thank you.
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone, especially our guest today, Charles Otudo. Thank you so much. We really got a lot out of that conversation. I also want to thank all those who made comments and those who were there. I want to also thank those who dodged making comments. There are some people I was going to call to make a comment and they ran away, but I forgive them for running away. Next time I will catch them very well. But my friend Boniface, thank you so much. Great to connect with you. My brother, Chief Ayoride, it was nice to hear you talk very calmly in those very measured tones, but we will sort Nigeria out, whether we all like it or not. And by God's grace, like I always say, Nigeria will be great again in Jesus' name. Thank you all very much. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the week and have a wonderful weekend. Sonny, thanks a lot. Masterful. Okay, thank you very much. Masterful.
Comment section.
Huh?
Chat. Something on the chat.
Okay. Something on the chat?
Yes.
Somebody's asking for my bank details or what?
No. I will send mine.
Send it to Sonny. Is any foreign exchange?
Chat.
What's on the chat?
What's on the chat? Sonny,
talk
check
is
the chat.
necessary. We need to create strong awareness to create to carry as many people along. We must do away with corrupt leaders. We need to bring in disciplined, principled people to rule this nation.
Okay. All right.
Okay, noted. Fire, I saw your chat too. God comfort you and strengthen you, Fire. God bless you. All right. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and see you same time next week by God's grace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But Sonny, you heard that comment about making sure that our outcomes are delivered to the relevant sources.
Yes, we had that comment. And like we said, every week, we have, maybe the people here are not even aware. I think Clara made a clarification. Every week, Independent newspaper and the Vanguard, everything we discuss is summarized and there's a publication that comes out. Maybe we'll push it out through other social media platforms. And like you have requested, we are working on a green book that will produce everything that we're talking about.
On what
And
day
it's
of the
live on
week come
YouTube.
out?
We have the YouTube link.
On what day,
link
what?
as well.
What day of the week do these publications come out?
Okay. Is Lara still on the platform?
It's usually like a day after. I think we get it a day after and then we send it out. But there is also the YouTube recording that is live. So we do encourage people to share that information as well, because sometimes it's a lot easier to listen to the session. So that's another way for people to get that information.
Thank you. I think it comes out a day or two. So today is Thursday. It comes out like Friday or
Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sorry, who is monitoring it? How does it get to the people that we want it to get to? Who is monitoring?
So
We usually send out the link. We have the link and then we usually send it out.